Looking for these better days.
It is Tuesday, August 19th. I'm Scott Seidenberg. Here's what you need to know to have a better day. The Cincinnati Bengals defeated the Commanders 31-17 last night on Monday Night Football, wrapping up week 2 of the NFL preseason, and the lines are out for week 3, and they are a-movin'. Jared Smith joins me once again here on Better Day. And thank you guys for tuning into the first episode. Jared, we got a lot of really good feedback on social media about the first episode of Better Day yesterday. So thank you for being a part of it. I know you're going to be a big part of this podcast moving forward during football season especially. And I'm just proud of the feedback that we've gotten so far.
Yeah, usually you only hear from people in the space when you do something wrong. The line of people when, to correct you or to, make fun of your take or whatever, usually it's negative. It is rare you get multiple people. I would say I counted at least 5 to 10 people on the timeline today, which again, in this space, that should be like 500, giving you positive feedback. So thank you to all of those people. And I'm excited. Again, there's a certain process to this, right, Scott? Like, it's like you get to a certain point in your day and your routine, and you just want to get into a good process, and exchanging ideas, I think, helps me. So we hope it helps you too. Obviously, the feedback was great, and really excited for football.
Love it. Absolutely thrilled to have you aboard, like I said, and can't wait to continue to do this throughout the football season. Week 2 of the preseason's in the books. I know we did our big overreaction on yesterday's episode, but we still had one more game, and that was last night. The Cincinnati Bengals went out and played their starters. Joe Burrow and the starters played for extended time. Jaden Daniels and some of the starters played for Washington, but only a series, and we saw Jaden Daniels running that touchdown run from 14 yards out. And I was just thinking about it, Jared, what you said yesterday when we were previewing this game. You said, hey, you want to bet on any of these defenses? You want to bet on any of these defenses to stop somebody? Because we talked about the Bengals betting them in the first quarter, and guess what? Joe Burrow and company scored on their opening drive, but then they just let Washington go right through them to score on that first drive as well.
Yeah, we got the half home. I saw Fez gave out the first half. I thought that was a good look. We were on the over. I was on the over earlier in the week. I think I got 41. I think it closed 43, maybe 43 and a half. And still, I think it was over by the end of the third quarter. And the second half, though, see, that's what I've noticed so far preseason week 2. First half overs, second half unders. That's been a very strong trend that I've noticed. Or, and maybe it's not as strong, but I've noticed the output drop off dramatically in the second half when you're really getting into the bottom of these benches. The third week, not seeing a lot of unlike last week, not seeing a lot of totals in the 40s. We saw it's rare in the preseason to see a lot of totals in the 40s. We saw 5 of them in the 40s in week 2. 3 out of the 5 stayed under. This Bengals-Washington game was one of the ones that went over. But I'm seeing a lot of mid-30s next week, which kind of tells you it's going to be bare bones with some of the quarterback play, I think.
Yeah, so wrapping up the final numbers, we know overs in week number 1, 14-2. In week number 2, 9-7. The favorites got absolutely demolished in week 1 of the preseason, 4-12 ATS. In week 2, 9-7 ATS. So a little bit, back towards the pack. I think that, we expected the unders to have their way, and over still led, but again, 9-7. So it's not like it was as dramatic as we saw in week number 1. And I do think a lot of that had to do with the public coming in and betting, more money flooding the market here with week 2 of the preseason, and naturally the books adjusting to what they saw in week number 1. Now there's obviously an adjustment here as we've seen in week number 2, but also, Jared, we've seen the steam fast and furious from the moment these week 3 lines opened up.
Yeah, I'm noticing 4 moves really that are almost a touchdown or more. One of them's getting close to a touchdown. The obvious one is actually there's 2 ones that I think are built based on play. Patriots Giants, like the Giants have been bet really heavily. I don't think that's as much who's playing, because it's more about Dart and how good Dart has looked. And I think that's why that number has moved considerably. Steelers Panthers have moved a lot. Steelers took a lot of money. I don't know. Maybe we're gonna get Rodgers for a series. Maybe I don't know. But again, even if you do get Rodgers for a series, even if it's one series, I don't think he's gonna play. But let's say you get a move this week where the starter's gonna play one series and the line moves 3 or 4 points. It's one series.
Exactly.
There's still a whole 3 quarters plus to be played, and it is going to be mop-up duty in this final preseason game. So I think you're fading big steam moves this week, honestly. Anything a touchdown, 6 points or more, I think you're fading those moves. So if the Giants move wants to steam, 6 points towards Big Blue, you might have to come back on the Patriots. Same thing with the Panthers. I know it's a hold your nose special, but if the Steelers are going to go from +3 to -2.5, like why? I don't understand with the totals that low in the 30s. If you're going to get a 6-point move, I think it's going to open up value on the other side.
Yeah, Cleveland Browns went from what, 2.5 to 7?
Yeah.
That's
And I
a
think the
crazy
Jags and
move.
Dolphins game moved 6 points too. I mean, I haven't heard any specific news on any of these games yet. I just think it's, maybe some overreactions to maybe what we saw in week 2, or maybe some, looking ahead to what some of the sharp bettors think will happen with some of the matchups and the lineups. I mean, I haven't heard. It's only been literally less than 24 hours that we've been marinating on week 2. So these are pretty substantial moves already.
I think, the announcement that Joe Flacco is going to be the starting quarterback, which I don't think anybody doubted that he was not going to be the starting quarterback in week number 1. The question is, all right, well then, if the Browns are going to play both Shedeur Sanders and Dylan Gabriel for this entire preseason game, at least those are 2 guys that are competing for a roster spot. And when we talk about preseason betting, we tend to want to lean towards the position battles. You want guys that are competing. I don't want to see, a 4th string quarterback play that's not going to make the team, because that's not the guy I'm going to put my money on. I want to bet on the 2 guys that are competing for the backup spot. I want to bet on those guys to go out there and play their best football, because they are auditioning for a role on the team. And I think that's what bettors, or at least the sharp bettors that are betting this stuff early, might be realizing here with the Cleveland Browns.
I would agree with that sentiment. Here's the part that I think a lot of the average fan might miss. Every single player on this field is putting something on tape as well for maybe their next job.
Yes.
And I think that because you would have to assume that almost probably half, if not all, of the players that are going to be playing in this last preseason game are probably going to get cut. Like, it's a very high percentage.
That's how the 4th preseason game used to be all the time.
Yes, it's literally the all practice squad bowl. In all of these games, and there'll be a few guys that obviously make the 2 deep, but for the most part, this is your last chance to put something on tape before you get cut, and then you get put back into the ecosystem, and you might get signed right away, but the level of intensity in these games is going to be high. That's why usually unders, but B, if it moves considerably, anything more than 6 points, like I don't understand why a game would move that much with a total this low, with that level of backup players on the field, widespread, all playing for a job. So I'm gonna be fading a lot of steam this week. I'm not gonna be playing these games for very much. I'm kind of in regular season mode now, but definitely gonna be fading the steam.
One final thought on last night's game. Did Mitchell Tinsley become the 2025 Victor Cruz? And for those who don't know what I'm talking about, Victor Cruz, who had a decent short career with the New York Giants, everyone remembers the touchdown salsa celebration, right? Look, we're doing the salsa dance here as we score a touchdown. You're watching this, okay? So Victor Cruz out of UMass shined in week 3 of the preseason when the Jets and Giants played each other, and he tore up Rex Ryan's defense to the point where Rex Ryan goes to, why am I blanking here? Tom Coughlin after the game, and he says, hey, who is that number 3 or whatever his number was during the preseason? He goes, that guy's a beast, right? Because Victor Cruz scored 3 touchdowns against the Jets. All of a sudden, the guy winds up having himself an NFL career. Did Mitchell Tinsley become that guy last night?
He could have been. I think the Bengals offense, like I got into a couple of Twitter back and forth with people who really think Joe Burrow's going to win the MVP.
Not with that line.
He's got like a really, really good shot. Like if he go, if the Bengals can make the playoffs, and if Burrow can just, drop 40 every game, and those games are 41, 36, crazy score lines, then Joe Burrow can win the MVP. I think Tinsley has a chance. I mean, listen, where did he play? Western Kentucky? Yeah. He's one of those guys that you just never know where these guys are going to come from. It's kind of funny that he used to play for the Commanders and he had a breakout game against the Commanders tonight. It's kind of funny how that works out. Do not bet Joe Burrow. I saw one of our colleagues, Julian Edlow, post that it's the most popular bet on DraftKings right now is Joe Burrow to win the MVP, and people are just like hand over fist betting it. And there hasn't been a quarterback to win MVP with less than 11 wins in like the last 25 years. It just doesn't happen. So are the Bengals an 11, 12 win team?
No.
I personally don't see it. And that to me is the only path for a quarterback, I think, in today's day and age to win MVP.
I would agree. Plus, I mean, that offensive line, I just don't know what I'm going to get out of them. And
it's so bad. How are they going to win 10 games with that defense?
You're right. They're going to be behind the 8 ball a lot. Let's stick to the quarterbacks here, Jared. Big news yesterday. Matthew Stafford practiced for the first time here in training camp. 26 plays during team drills. Sean McVay said, "It was good to be able to have Matthew out there. He did a good job." That's my McVay impression, by the way.
That was not
I
bad.
thought he looked great.
He does a lot of chunky soup commercials these days.
Yeah. And he memorizes everything too. He said, quote, "I don't really have any updates. We're going to keep it a day-to-day and really a week at a time," end quote. He was also non-committal when speaking about week number 1.
Yeah.
Now, I've taken a lot of heat for this, Jared, but it was a month ago, maybe. No, maybe I'm exaggerating. A couple of weeks ago when I, on VSiN, gave out the hot take that I think Matthew Stafford misses the first 2 weeks of the season. And I gave out his passing yards under 3,750. Yep. We bet it at 3,750. It is down to now 3,600. I still would recommend a bet on the under 3,600 for Matthew Stafford passing yards. If it's not week 1 that he misses, he's going to miss a game later in the season. He's not playing a full season, not with this back issue. When you got to get an epidural in your back, that is serious stuff. And I think that this is being maybe not talked about enough because I don't know if the Rams want to keep it under the rug, whatever the reason is. But I think there's a serious issue here with Matthew Stafford. And the reason why I suggested maybe week 1 and week 2 would be weeks that he would sit out is because you look at the schedule. Week 1, you played the Houston Texans. That is a blitzing team that loves to get after the quarterback with DeMeco Ryans. You got a banged up, near 40-year-old quarterback that's dealing with a back issue. I don't need him taking those hits in week 1 of the season. Not for my team that has Super Bowl aspirations. And then in week number 2, you play the Tennessee Titans and a rookie quarterback in Cam Ward. You're favored in that game on the road. You should handle your business there. If Jimmy Garoppolo can't go 1-1 in those first 2 weeks, then the Rams aren't a playoff team. Because it's not just the quarterback. Jimmy Garoppolo is good enough to go 1-1 in those 2 games. Probably 2-0. And then week 3, you play the Philadelphia Eagles. That's a game that I think we would see Matthew Stafford in. Also, what's the benefit of those first 2 games? They're AFC opponents. If you do go 1-1, it's not the worst thing. We know that obviously head-to-head in your division's the biggest tiebreaker, and then your division record, then your conference record. The AFC loss is not going to hurt you in the grand scheme of things. So I still think that we don't see Matthew Stafford in week 1 of the regular season. And I know that that line has kind of jumped a bit. We've seen some movement here on that Rams-Texans line. I would be on the Houston Texans right now. I know I say that Jimmy Garoppolo can go win that football game, and I do believe that Jimmy Garoppolo could win that football game, but I think that any 3 that you can find is value on the Houston Texans. Now, it might be tough because with the Stafford uncertainty, we've seen it drop down to 2.5. But you get a +3 on the Houston Texans right now, you got to jump on it.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree. I wish I had a 3 in my back pocket. I think you can get a basically like a +2.75, like a +2.5 minus 5 cents, I think is available at one of the shops. I mean that, 3 obviously is where you want to be. Hopefully we get some more positive news about Stafford over the next week or 2. Because the way you laid it out makes a ton of sense. There definitely is no incentive to really rushing him back. If it's 1 week, if it's 2 weeks, if he doesn't play until week 3, I think it makes sense to ease him back. I think it also makes sense to maybe treat that week 1 game like a preseason game. Maybe you play Stafford for a half and you see how he feels,
Fair
and
point.
then you can always go to Jimmy G. And frankly, I think Jimmy G's better in that role where he doesn't have to start the game. He can kind of, ease into it. Maybe you go out there and you do what the other teams have done and you just, try to piece it together. in like a preseason fashion with Stafford, where maybe you see what he has in the tank. I don't know how healthy he is. I wish I knew. Him practicing 26 snaps in team today doesn't really do much for me. We'll see what happens when he's not wearing the red jersey. I think that is the key.
One final football note, Jared, and let's go to college football because the big news yesterday coming out of Ohio State, they have named a starting quarterback for at least the first game of the season, as Ryan Day named second-year player Julian Sayin as his starting quarterback. I think that's what everyone expected to happen, that it was going to be Julian Sayin as the starting quarterback, even though it was an open competition during training camp, and there was a belief that junior Lincoln Kienholz could really steal this job from Sayin, but Ryan Day finally announced a starter for week 1 against Texas, and it will be Sayin.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. Everything I've heard has been positive. I think it's right now the biggest issue with Ohio State is the synergy with their new coordinator. And he's kind of an old coordinator. You know, he's been on the team for a while, Brian Hartline. But how does that relationship work with Ryan Day? How quickly does Ryan Day take the reins? I thought the execution and the brain power in the booth for Ohio State was a big reason why they won the national championship. They have great players. I'm sure Julian Sayin's a great player. Jeremiah Smith is a great player. They have a fantastic group of receivers and offensive linemen, and that talent wins on the field. But I am very intrigued to see how the connection, how that synergy works between quarterback, offensive coordinator, play caller, and head coach, because that to me is going to be how you win in the margins this year, which is a very tough year in the Big Ten and across the country. It's not going to be easy for the Buckeyes to repeat.
Yeah, I went under 10.5 wins. And it's no disrespect to this team. I still think that they're a college football playoff team. Like, if you're telling me Ohio State's going to be in the playoff, I'm saying, yeah, they're going to be 10-2. 10-2 is an incredible season for them. It still goes under 10.5. So you look at the schedule. They have talent. We know that. You mentioned the coordinator change. That is huge. 2 coordinator changes. It's going to have an impact on this team. And then you just look at the games they play. They have, by the way, Matt Patricia, right? Like, yeah. That's their – come on. Speaking about the coordinator change.
Talk about a downgrade from Knowles to Patricia.
Yeah, Matt Patricia? Okay. So here's what they have. They have Penn State, obviously, the Texas game. They have to travel to Washington. Obviously, you play Michigan, who's had, they beat them 4 years in a row. But something that happened last year really stuck out to me as the reason why I want to bet Ohio State, and I did bet Ohio State under 10.5 wins. And huge shout out to Bill Rabinowitz, who wrote a great book on last year's Ohio State team. Bill has been covering Ohio State for years for the Columbus Dispatch. And he detailed that last year, Chip Kelly and this offense ran over 100 fewer plays than they did a season before. And the belief was, in the new landscape of college football, with a 12-team playoff, the sense of urgency is not there for every single game. And you could prioritize a little bit of rest, meaning you don't have to sit players, but you slow down your pace a bit because you want to be healthy at the end of the season. You know that you can get into the playoffs with a loss or two, and it's just a matter of being healthy and hot at the right time. And so I think they carry that over with the experience of winning the national championship last year. They carry that experience over into this year, and they won't have that urgency in every single game. And that's why I think there'll be a couple of hiccups in the season. I think it's a 10-2 year at the most.
I hope one of those hiccups is in early November against Penn State. That's all I'm going to say to respond to that. I can't argue with it. I think there's a legit handicapping reason why we should be under on Ohio State. That little nuance, that little wrinkle makes a ton of sense. I don't know how many wins it's going to eat, because I think you still want to win the games, even though you're not maybe running as many plays. You're still trying your play to win the game, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think the bigger issue is the coordinator changes, especially the offense, which was so freaking good down the stretch of the season, running the ball, scheming up ways to get Jeremiah Smith open. I think they ran this like little counter screen with Jeremiah Smith, and he in the Rose Bowl against Oregon, and he was like wide open. Like, how do you get Jeremiah Smith that wide open? It's all coaching. So I think it's going to be really interesting to see how that works out for the Buckeyes. And man, do I hope they take a step. I hope you're right on under 10.5.
And I hope I'm right about them losing in that Penn State game as well, because I have Penn State winning the Big Ten. So let's move on. Let's get into some Major League Baseball. 3 words, Jared. Sunday night fade. I don't care that you're coming from Williamsport and going to Philadelphia. The Sunday night fade comes home again as the Mariners fall to the Phillies 12-7, bringing the Sunday night fade record to 12-3 on the season. Again, the only losses are 2 games the Dodgers won and the 1 game that the Tigers beat the Minnesota Twins a couple of weeks ago. This is now 12-3, fading the teams that play on Sunday night and have to travel for a game on Monday.
It's fantastic. Honestly, I'm mad at myself that I haven't been betting it all year. I have betted a few times. That looked like a football box score, Mariners and Phillies. 12 runs, 21 hits for the Phillies. 7-9-1 for the Mariners. How about that? The Sunday night fade.
How about the American League MVP, Cal Raleigh, going 0-5 with 3 strikeouts? I mean, now batting a whopping .249 on the year.
Yeah, we told you that last night. If you're betting the people who are betting Cal Raleigh to win MVP are the same people betting Joe Burrow to win MVP. It's just I don't get it. I don't get it. And you could still go I'm seeing like -140 on Judge. Like
it's incredible value. Yeah. It's incredible value. Brewers are now 9 games up on the Cubs as this division is getting it's done. Brewers with the 7-0 win in game 1 of the doubleheader. Game 2 was rained out, so now they're going to reschedule a doubleheader, which will be today. So it's just a crazy schedule going on there. But the Brewers win 7-0, 2 hits. That's it for the Chicago Cubs in that game. Elsewhere yesterday, Tigers blew out the Astros 10-0. I bet last night, Jared, Jack Flaherty over 1.5 earned runs allowed. The Astros had the bases loaded in the first inning and didn't score.
Wow.
And obviously they didn't score for the rest of the game. But imagine you're sitting there, bases loaded in the first inning, you have over 1.5 earned runs, you just need a single, and you cash this in the first inning. And then they don't score, and you're thinking, guys, whatever, it's only the first inning. They're going to get runners on base, and at some point, again, nope. No chance.
5 hits the whole game. Yeah, I mean, I think the Tigers are if they can put together good pitching performances like that. I mean, Flaherty and Skubal. That's I don't know how good their offense is going to be. We've seen a lot of these younger, inexperienced offenses. The Orioles is really the one that comes to mind. Like when you just get to October and things tighten up, you just go in the tank. But if Flaherty and Skubal can go out there and give you gems like that, I mean, maybe they can make the ALCS.
I don't know if I can bet on them just
Me
yet.
neither. But it'd be fun. I think the American League is wide open, though. I don't think it's like the National League. Like, it's really Dodgers and Phillies, and I just don't see any other team coming out of the NL. The American League, I probably could make a case for 4 or 5 teams.
Yeah. Cashier Nerfy with Paul Skeens and Kevin Gausman yesterday. You paid a little juice, but you know what? The juice was worth the squeeze as it was a scoreless first inning. But guess what, Jared? You didn't cash your first 5 under. It was 3.5, and there were 4 runs scored in the first 5 innings. You also didn't cash your Pirates' first 5. I mean, you pushed. It was 2-2. But Skeens winds up getting a no decision, like always. 6 innings, 5 hits, 2 runs, 8 strikeouts, 1 walk. ERA is now 2.16 on the year. And with Zach Wheeler having that procedure with the blood clot, it just feels like it's a foregone conclusion. Skeens is your National League Cy Young.
Done deal. I think the awards markets are a done deal outside of the American League MVP, which is really a done deal, but the market's not saying that right now. But the other 3, I think, are really done deals.
Yeah. A couple of upsets last night. I told you the White Sox. I said, this is just what they do. Spencer Strider's on the mound. He's a -$2 favorite. Doesn't matter. White Sox are going to win. White Sox win 13-9. I'm never going to cash that longest losing streak bet.
No.
And how about the Rockies beating the Dodgers 4-3, walking it off? That ends a 10-game losing streak against the Dodgers. So if
Wow.
you were one of these guys that just says, hey, we're going to continue to ride this and we're going to play the trends here. They've lost 10 straight to the Dodgers. They got to lose again, right? Not the case. And shout out to our Robbie Ray play. I said we could look to fade the Padres here after that disappointing series against the Dodgers. Robbie Ray picks up the win, 4-3. Giants beat the Padres. So let's take a look at what we have today on the schedule. A doubleheader once again between the Brewers and the Cubs. Matthew Boyd scheduled to go game 1 for Chicago, and Chad Patrick for the Brewers. And then game number 2, which if they get it in, it'll be Brandon Woodruff and Jameson Taillon. The Astros are at the Tigers once again. How about this pitching matchup? Any interest, Jared, in this Nerfy? Hunter Brown and Tarek Skubal.
I mean, again, you're going to pay out the wazoo for it. I'm seeing minus 180, but is it probably going to hit? Yeah, probably. Is it going to hit enough to outrun minus 180 juice? Probably not. But more often than not, more than, if you run that scenario out 1,000 times, probably more than 500. Yeah, I think that Nerfy hits tomorrow.
Marlins are hosting the Cardinals. Edward Cabrera goes for the Marlins. Michael McGreevy for St. Louis. Blue Jays are at the Pirates. Max Scherzer for the Blue Jays and Mitch Keller for the Pirates. Scherzer and the Jays minus 150 on the road. I just don't like laying prices with Max Scherzer anymore. David Peterson goes for the Mets against the Nationals in D.C. Jake Irvin on the mound for the Nationals. The Mets are minus $2. Now, I get it, Jared. It's the Washington Nationals, right? And David Peterson's probably been the most consistent starter for the Mets this season. Where are we in this Mets season right now that we're listing them at minus 200 on any given night? I mean, this team, yes, they won on Sunday night. That was their third win in the last 14 games? I'll give you the numbers here. Let's see, 2 wins. So they won back-to-back against the Mariners. That's 2 in, 3 in, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 4 and 15 in their last 19 games. I'm supposed to lay $2 with this team?
No. But that's what you're going to get over the next month. Once these rosters expand and, you just get these crazy lines because these teams like the Nats, like the White Sox, like the Rockies, you just don't know what you're going to get. I think the value is on the other side of those games. Now, you'd have to play them all the time, which means you have to bet on the White Sox, the Rockies, the Nationals, all the bad teams every day. It's a miserable existence. But yeah, odds are, again, if we're talking about juice, outrunning the juice, no, I don't think the Mets can outrun that down the stretch if they're going to be a $2 favorite against all these bad teams because they're not that good this year. But that's just where the market goes in baseball down the stretch of the season, it feels like, especially with the really bad teams.
Yep. Mariners are at the Phillies. It'll be Christopher Sanchez on the mound for Philadelphia, minus 185, going up against Bryce Miller for the Mariners. Bryce Miller is going to be activated off of the IL. He has not pitched since June 6th. When a guy comes off the IL after that long of a time, is that a fade spot for you? Because I don't feel comfortable backing guys making their first appearances off the IL.
It depends because a lot of times too they'll move the number down based off of that. So it all depends on the number. It also depends on that particular team and how they handle pitchers coming back, which is usually something that you can kind of go back and research.
Sanchez minus 185 over the Mariners here. It'll be Philly or pass for me in this one. Tomoyuki Suguano on the mound for the Orioles at the Red Sox and Walker Buehler. White Sox are at the Braves. Shane Smith, that's your cousin, for the White Sox going up against Bryce Elder for the Braves. Carlos Rodon on the bump for the Yankees in Tampa against the Rays. Shane Baz for the Rays. Yankees minus 150 playing in their spring training home in Tampa, Jared. What a weird season.
Yankees. I think the Yankees are going to make a push down the stretch and make the playoffs. Everyone, I'm seeing all the New York people just jump off and just start bashing everyone. That's usually the time that they'll start playing better.
Feels that way.
Yeah.
Jacob Lopez goes for the A's at the Twins and Joe Ryan, Minnesota minus 155. This would only be a Minnesota first 5 play for me or pass. Maybe a first 5 under, though, backing Lopez.
Yeah, it's a good Nerfy
Joe
spot,
Ryan.
actually. Lopez 15-2 to the Nerfy in his very short career.
Really?
Yeah.
Let's see what we got here on the Nerfy. You got a price up for me, or let's see?
Let's take a look.
First inning, no. Up on FanDuel right now is -130. That's a good price.
Yeah.
That's a bettable price.
Especially the weather in Minnesota sometimes can be iffy this time of year. Might get some wind coming in. Let me actually look. Yeah. No, the target field is not a huge it's not a positive. Ballpark Pal, I don't know if you're familiar with Ballpark Pal, does a great job with their park factors. I think it's really good information if you're betting baseball on a daily basis. And yeah, they've got Minnesota as just flat on the day, so no weather advantage. Usually it's the home runs that you look for. It's the home runs that kill you with the Nerfies.
Hey, if Buxton doesn't hit it to lead off the game, I think we're okay here. Man. Let's go -130. Rangers are at the Royals. Merrill Kelly starting for the Rangers. Seth Lugo goes for KC. Dodgers and Rockies will do it again. Emmett Sheehan for the Dodgers and Austin Gomber for Colorado. Dodgers -270. Hunter Green on the mound for the Reds. They are -150 at the Angels, and Kyle Hendricks on the mound for LA. Hunter Green, who came off the IL and looked incredible against Philadelphia his last time out. 6 shutout innings, only 3 hits, no walks, and 6 strikeouts. And he's only -150 here for a team that's making a playoff push. I kind of lean towards the Reds. The Guardians are at the Diamondbacks. Tanner Bybee for Cleveland. Eduardo Rodriguez for Arizona. Giants and Padres will do it again. And Nick Pivetta goes for the Padres. And for the Giants is Kai Wei Teng. And Padres are -235. Now, this is an absurd price. But I will say, Jared, Nick Pivetta's home road splits at home this year, 7-1 with a 2.4 ERA. That's good. That's good. On the road, 5-3 with a 3.43.
Yeah, it's still pretty good.
Yeah, but opponents at Petco, opponents batting average 178.
That's really good. Some guys just really that is a trend. Like if there's some trends, some of the splits can be just like short samples. Some pitchers really do like the surroundings that they are in. It also has a lot to do with the mound and how the mound is tended to. I've heard that from a lot of pitchers. That is a thing. And a lot of times too, if you're uncomfortable on the mound, it could be almost worse than it's just like that part of the equation too is huge. If you're also stacking up starts against road guys who just aren't comfortable on the road, it's going to make your record look a lot better.
Great stuff, Jared. Thank you so much, as always, for all of your contributions. And you can follow Jared on Twitter at JaredSmithBets. You can hit me up on Twitter at ScottsOnAir. Don't forget, head to betterday.com. Lots of content for you on the website. More content coming every single day. Subscribe to the daily newsletter. You're going to get pretty much a recap of what we talked about on the podcast. Some bets. There'll be, isolated plays might be sent there as well. So everything you need to get your day started is all there for you in that newsletter and all here for you on this podcast. For Jared Smith, I'm Scott Seidenberg. I hope you make today and every day a better day.